Hello, welcome to the Happy Weight podcast. My name is Aoife Dean, and I'm here with one of my friends, best friends, Growbags, also known as Baba Ganoush, also known as Grainne. I feel very formal calling you Grainne.
I know. When
That
people call me
feels so
Grainne, I
weird.
get very nervous. I'm like, who's that woman they're talking about?
I know, it's very odd.
But then equally, if someone I don't know calls me Gro, I'm like, how dare you?
I know.
How dare you? Don't even know me.
I know. It's
We've only been
like,
friends a week.
yeah, it's like, I actually kind of like being called Aoifes. And the most random people will call me that.
So weird.
And I'm like, you don't even know me.
This happens because, can I tell you, this is a total aside and we can cut this out. I'm a teacher. I teach loads of kids called Aoife. I call them all Aoife. I call them all Aoife. I don't even mean to. And I'm like, Aoife, what did you get for that? And I'm like, you just called that child Aoife. She's going to be like, why are you not calling me
That's
by
kind
my
of
name?
hilarious though, because that really is kind of like you're being the cool teacher.
Yeah,
You're like,
getting it so wrong.
hey homies, I can chill with ye. I know your lingo.
What do your homies call you? Aoife, I bet.
Oh, that's so funny. So Grainne, other disclaimer from Grainne. When I was voice noting Grainne to come on my podcast, first of all, I was highly specific about how I worded it because I really wanted her to come on. So, like, I knew if I messed it up once, like, I would have lost you for good.
Yeah.
But
Had to be a good pitch.
It had to be a good pitch. But then I think I made it so serious. Like, your reply was like, I actually thought you were going to ask me for a kidney. You were like, you were so deadly serious about the question. But the other thing Grainne said is, and like, I totally get it. She's like, I will be mortified and basically kill you if you roll me out as some prize pig idol. Like, and I was like, look, that's absolutely not what's going to happen because, so basically to cut a long story short, I grew up with Grainne. I think our eyes met across the Monster Munch and colouring in play school.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, at 3
deep
years
and meaning
old.
fills all the time out in the yard that none of us understood, I don't think, but we connected.
1989. And Grainne got through childhood years, teenage years without kind of weight, diet issues. And and so basically Grainne is like, you know, N is the amount of subjects in a study. You're one of my N equals, you're one of my subjects that I'm like, okay, from day one, you didn't diet and you were happy out and you were like a slim, normal weight that you were happy with. And I'm like, and even today I was thinking about this and I'm like, there is a lot of studies on obesity. And technically, a lot of people doing those studies, they're actually not trying to create more obese people, or it's not that people want to be obese and are asking for these studies. So I'm like, actually, there should be a ton of studies on, people who are, they just happen to not have a weight problem. They just happen to not have a weight problem.
If we knew more about that as opposed to concentrating on the other side of it, maybe it would enlighten people a bit more.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's some saying from, it's like Thomas Trueward or something, and it's like how they figured out the floating of things wasn't by studying what sinks.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, like, I was just so blessed growing up with you for many billions and billions and billions of reasons.
Likewise.
But one of them being that, like, so I was, yet again, saying nothing about home, but going home to where everyone was like, you know, fatness is inevitable. It's in our family. You have to be afraid of these foods and these foods and these foods. You can't really be trusted with those foods because it's in you to not be able to be trusted with those foods. And then say learning Weight Watchers points and all the rest of it. But then, because we're both, I was going to say lucky, that's probably the wrong word to use, but you know the way like me and you and a lot of our friends happen to be like the youngest and the end of the line. So like we spent a lot of time together. So I actually had probably more exposure to you than like my family members. So it was kind of like leaving, you know, the kitchen table that was stuffed with Weight Watchers points and all the rest of it, to hang out with you, who was eating like crisps and chocolate and everything all day long.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, you know, that.
Yeah, it's like there's mixed messages there, because you're like, I'm getting all this information from home, but then I come and I meet my friends, and like,
it's literally the opposite.
It's the opposite. And like, not saying like, okay, so whatever messages are given in like Weight Watchers, X, you eat X, you will turn into Y being something undesirable.
Yeah.
But like, we spent our whole childhood when we were in each other's company planning around like having how to get more sweets. How can we get more sweets? What other relatives can we ask for money? Like, how can we get more money?
How can we pool our resources?
We were
and
so
get,
resourceful.
like, value.
And it was all about sweets and food. But like, equally at the same time, we were doing all that, and yet there were no negative consequences. There was only really positive memories. Like, that sounds desperate. It's like we just met up and ate our like body weight in sweets. We didn't do that either. It was more of a like, you know, we used to plan to have these little parties, and we would bring all our friends over, and we would save up money. It's like save up our own money to treat our friends at the age of like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And have them all over to our little clubhouse and spoil them with like whatever we could get in the supermarket, which was not very like glamorous in those days. Like, remember when they brought in remember tortilla chips came out in around like 97, 98.
God, we literally took a photo. I have a photo.
Yeah, like the most remarkable event that had ever happened in West Cork. We got tortilla chips, but like
the hot food counter in Centra around Drumleague, that was Cuisine de France.
Oh jeez,
Cuisine de France.
Like, we thought we'd made it. Like, all we generally needed was McDonald's, and my life was made. Like, I didn't need anything else.
Yeah,
but yeah, like, so like we just pooled our money together and like used to buy all those lovely things, and then have all our friends over and like just eat them and have fun. Like,
but you know, like, first of all, I don't think kids will ever change. Do you know what I mean?
No.
In terms of like my nephews and nieces, like, they're really excited about like sweets and stuff, and like that's lovely. And also, like, the more I work in what I work in, that's not the problem. Like, as in, people with extreme weight problems have fear, guilt, regret. Like, they've negative emotions. We were excited.
Yeah.
We were positive. We were picking literally the best, tastiest foods.
Yeah.
We were grateful for those foods. We were appreciating them as, you know, we were actually mindful eaters.
We
know
were,
what
because,
I mean?
geez, with our funds, we could only get so much. So it's like, here's 3 tortillas for you.
Yeah.
3 tortillas for you. Enjoy them. Like,
yeah, and we really value the food, and kind of like, you know, when I'm working with clients now, like, I'm always trying to bring across how it's like you have the relationship with your body, and then you have the relationship with the individual foods. Mm-hmm. And say, like, I had a client there the other day, and she was like, it doesn't really happen to her anymore. Like, we've been working together a while now, and she was like, it was just weird. Sunday was just like an anxious day or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, so she kind of looked down, and the share bag of Maltesers or whatever was gone.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I was kind of saying, okay, well, that being a good relationship with food now, that's the equivalent of, say, calling over to your friend for an hour and being on your phone the whole time. You know, you're like, sorry, Maltesers, I missed ya. And, you know, I know that sounds mental. Yeah. But in another way,
she didn't spend the time with the Maltesers enjoy them.
She didn't. So it was literally missed. Like, so whatever Mr. Malteser or whoever invented them, whatever like recipe,
not his aim,
he came up with for them to be like perfectly beautiful, it was all lost on her. Like, she doesn't remember the taste, and she was just left with the feeling afterwards.
It probably didn't matter what it was. It could have been a share bag of anything.
Like, exactly. So like what we were doing was actually kind of that actually shows a very good relationship with food, actually. I think.
Which is weird, because at the time I'd say we were trying to keep it under wraps. Jeez, like.
Oh, God. Well, like, as Grainne was trying to get out of the podcast, she kept re-qualifying herself for why I really wanted her on the podcast. because she was like, Aoife, I don't know why you'd want me on the podcast. I literally, like, I put food in my mouth. I really enjoy it. And then I stop when I'm full. Like, that's it. That's all I do. And she was like,
formula.
I literally love food so much that, like, other people can go off stuff. I can't. I love food so much. And I was like, in my head, listening to that, I was like, Grainne, do you know how frustrating that is to hear? If you're someone with like a weight problem or someone who's like just killing themselves trying to like do diets or go off bread or go off whatever, and then you hear someone say, I just eat what I love and I stop when I'm full. But like, you know, but like I say, as I was watching you through the years, like, which sounds super creepy.
Very creepy.
But there's also like so many things you never did. So I always think that, you know, first of all, and I don't think you would have ever said this as such really, but like as in, you know, you technically do eat what you want. Mm-hmm. Like as in there isn't something that you want to eat and you don't let yourself eat. And I think from a dieter's point of view, I was always hearing that. And it was like, oh, wow. So when I'm like trying to control myself and trying to like stop eating the share bag, she can just go for it. And you're like, no, there's a massive clause, terms and conditions apply, because I was making myself uncomfortable with eating a lot of the time. And whereas, like, say, someone like you or someone without a weight problem would be like, well, it goes without saying I wouldn't want to be uncomfortable. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, obviously, I've no interest in being over full. And, like, obviously, I'm not going to eat something I don't like the taste of.
Definitely not, no.
And see, then with a dieter or someone who's trying to lose weight, they're actually only doing those things. Like, as in, when my weight was the worst, it was like every day was a prescribed day. Wow, like, you mightn't have liked these foods, but these are the foods that cause weight loss. And then on a kind of bingey or a bad day or whatever, you'd be kind of like, well, you know, just eat whatever I want. So it would have been like crazy uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So they're like two key things that like would not have been of interest.
No. But like I was saying to you, like, I don't know, is it because I'm the youngest of my family, and I think like obviously moms and dads run out of steam towards the end, but like,
which really benefits the kids, I think.
Really benefits the ones at the end. But like, I was very much given free rein with food. There, like, I was allowed to buy sweets. I used to pester my granduncle used to live kind of with us, and like I'd go in every day, and it'd be like a daily ritual, and he'd give me like 20 pence, and I'd use that 20 pence to get loads of bits and bobs down the shop. So clearly, like, you know, there was nobody saying you can't have that. So like straight away, I had a very happy relationship with food. I wouldn't say it was healthy in terms of like what I was consuming, because like there was many years of like, you know, I would be so full on sweets and things that I shouldn't have been eating. I wouldn't eat my dinner, or I wouldn't want to eat my dinner. But equally, like I've said to you before, I was never forced to have anything. I was never told, come on, you have to eat that up, or you have to like I remember my poor mom's friend had me over and was minding me when I was small, and she had that policy at the table where you have to eat everything, every bite before you leave. And I ate, like, because I was being told to, and then like, it's terrible, but I got sick at the table because like
your belly wasn't ready.
My belly was so shell shocked as to what was going on. But anyway, there was not a policy like that in my house. And like I was saying to you before, that gave me the opportunity to just kind of like, it sounds really weird, but like just like follow my own taste buds and be like, I like that, or I don't like that. Or, you know what, I've decided I'm going to try that for myself. No one ever was like, come on now, try peppers. You'd love peppers. Peppers are very good for you because they have this, that and the other. It was kind of just a journey of figuring out what I like and what I don't like. And like, it's kind of like, you have so much ownership over it then, because like I remember being nearly an adult and being like, I now love tomatoes and I use tomatoes for this, that and the other. And it's like, well, no one forced me to do that. It was your own, like, it sounds stupid, but like, it was your own decision to pursue the foods that you like and the ones you don't like. There was never a relationship established from a young age of, this is what you should eat, this is what you know, you have to eat or you're not getting up from the table. There was no relationship like that in my brain.
Yeah.
So I think that has now stood to me as an adult, because anything I am eating, I'm like, you know, I love this. I love eating this. I love making this. It's not anything that anyone's ever told me I have to have. So it was a bit hairy as a child, like, because I was like, on the outside looking in, I was very skinny. I was very small. I was like, you couldn't, like, I wasn't malnourished. Like, I was clearly nourished. But like, you know, looking in, I probably didn't look like any other child, because I was, like, my nickname in school was Grainne. Like, because, and that used to really get to me, because I was like, I wish I could look like everybody else. And it's actually in reverse, which is weird, because like, so many people are conscious of their weight. And like, I was so conscious of being underweight. Like, the amount of comments people used to make, like, especially I remember starting secondary school and being so skinny and so small. And that being such a like comment that was really freely made about me in my company. And like, it's funny, like, people just get hang-ups about stupid things. And like, in the same way people get hang-ups about being overweight, and people may be making comment about that.
It's just comments.
It's just comments.
It's like what we were saying about lunches. It's just like comments.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
you just,
exactly
all comments. You're like, just...
It's unwanted
I don't
attention.
want to comment. Exactly.
Yeah, because it's like, it doesn't really matter what the motivation, the reason is. Your comment is unwanted in my, like, in my personal space. I know I'm small. I know I'm skinny. You don't need to reinforce that, because you reinforcing it is making me feel like it's a bad thing.
But it's super that whole thing as well, that like, you know, kids are amazing, but they're equally horrible.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's no more horrible time than national school in a way.
Especially that transition to secondary school, because that's the age group I work with. And like, there's nothing they like more than difference. If you're different in any way, shape or form.
They're like vultures.
And they're like, wow, that girl's really small and skinny. Let's make sure every single person in the year, despite the fact they mightn't even know her, knows she's small and skinny. Or let's make everybody make sure she has a really weird hobby. Or let's make sure they know that, like, she's a girl and she plays rugby. Or,
you see that now,
I see it all the time. And like, it's so impossible to explain to the kids at like 12 or 13 that like, they're looking for differences, and your differences are your superpower, and that's what's going to make you stand out for all the right reasons in just like, give it 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But like, you can't tell somebody that at 12 or 13, because
you don't
like,
want
a year is an eternity.
Exactly.
Look, I got over it in time, but like, it was kind of a trigger for a long time.
Of course.
If anyone made a comment, like, I remember years later, and I've said that to you as well, remember a time like starting to work full time and like not knowing that like working full time is such a busy time anyway, that like, I remember not having enough time to have lunch and not being able to figure it out, like how to manage my time properly, and being so dedicated to the job. And I lost a good bit, like not a good bit of weight, but like I lost a bit of weight to the point it was noticeable. And I remember someone made a comment to me about it, and like, God, it was such a trigger. It was like,
brought it
all back, like being like, oh no, I'm different again. Oh no, I'm on the radar again. And like, to somebody else that would be such a compliment. Wow, you've lost weight, you look good. But like, it doesn't actually even matter. It's whatever the trigger is.
It is. Yeah, totally. Because when we were just talking there about lunches at work and
yeah,
you know, like, if I'm to put things simply, I only wanted to become a dietitian so I didn't have a weight problem. It's not as if that I wanted to have like a gravestone that said she never had chocolate for 60 years.
Yeah.
Like, I just cared about not being unhealthy. That was it. Like, whatever that entailed.
Motivation, yeah.
Yeah. So equally with my lunches at work, it might just so happen there was Calvita in the fridge and something. Sorry, it's bad on you. But there was just that
Calvita
and
gets
that.
you drooling straight away. The thoughts of Calvita.
I'm like, it is nice, and cream crackers and pickled onions. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode. Just to let you know, I have 2 online courses, Happy Hypno Weight and the Love Food Program, and both are designed to help you unlearn toxic diet culture, good food, bad food thinking, feeling guilty after food, totally change your relationship with food and start becoming your ideal weight.
And you can get both courses right now for a limited time at €150. So that's €100 off. So go to happyweight.ie/special offer and avail of this great deal.
That's just what happened to be there,
Yeah.
and I couldn't be arsed going to the shop.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely not Instagrammable.
No.
But I like the taste of it.
Yeah.
And it will get my belly from hungry to full. And that's why it's there.
Yeah.
And when I was working in the Matter Private in Cork, like there'd actually be like a swarm around me at lunch is what it felt like.
Yeah.
There probably actually wasn't.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh wow, what are you doing there?
Oh wow,
Like,
the professional dietitian.
Yeah, like, oh my God.
Is there
what-
something we don't know about Calvita?
like, what are you going for there?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, this is just like, as in, it tastes nice and it will get me from hungry
Yeah.
to full, and that's it. But the commentary was awful.
Yeah, so unhealthy, and people don't realise it. And it was really funny because this happens in my workplace as well. And a friend of mine one day said, like, I noticed it, I mentally logged it, and I used to, like, it started to make me feel slightly uncomfortable at times, because like I would be someone who eats their lunch, right? And I might bring leftovers from the night before, and I might decide, right, that portion was obviously way too big.
Because you're full.
Because you're full now, and I'm ready to do the rest of my day. I don't need any more food to do that. And I would leave the rest in the lunchbox. And like, there was always kind of like, and I know people don't mean any harm. And it's like, oh, you didn't finish it. Oh, did you make too much? Did you make too much of that? And like, there was always like, it was never anybody making any kind of negative comment in their brain. But to me, it was like, why are you talking about my lunch?
Do you know
like,
what though? Because you were saying that, but I'm like, it's not intentional.
No.
But also, it's not coming from a crazy good place either, because when you said that, I was like, oh God, I definitely said that to you for years, because like, you know, if you're permission based in your head rather than feeling based, like in terms of like, I now feel full, so I'll stop. But someone with a weight problem will be like, today I'm justifying eating this. Today I'm allowing myself to eat this. So if you've allowed yourself eat the pasta carbonara for lunch, you are going to eat all the pasta carbonara. Mm-hmm. So what you were doing made no sense, because you have the yummy thing that's not on a diet, but you're leaving a quarter of it. So that's not black or white. And when we've got a weight problem, we've black or white thinking that food is either good or bad.
Wow, yeah.
You're allowed to eat all of it, or you're allowed to eat none of it.
That's mad, yeah.
So
that makes
you
sense.
were like short-circuiting everyone around you with a weight problem, because it's like, but it's fatty, but she's not eating it all. But she could.
The mission.
Because if it's fatty, she's on a bad day, so couldn't she just go for it and eat it all?
Yeah.
So like, as in, it's not coming from a bad place intentionally, but it's not coming from a great place from there.
Look, you know, it depends. But like, I don't know, it's just a really common thing in workplaces. It's just, well, in my workplace anyway. But like, I remember a friend of mine said one day to me separately, she was like, God, sometimes I just dread lunch because there just seems to be always a comment about anything I'm eating. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad somebody has recognised this, because I felt like it was just that I was a bit too oversensitive about things. Maybe it was because I'd experienced it in the past or something, but I just think maybe that is the thing. Maybe it is the people in the group that view it as a permission-based thing. Yeah. Maybe it is. I don't know. You know.
But that's the whole thing, because even I was talking to a client today, and like, she's kind of out of the woods as well, so it's kind of cool talking to her, because we can kind of look back on it all. And she's like, it's so weird, the things that were just common normal statements to say to other women about their weight or their eating or whatever, that then once you're out of a weight problem, you're like, that's so messed up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
perspective is huge.
It's so messed up, because as in, especially like, so yet again, a weight problem is when we're kind of more mentally guided with food, and not having weight problems when we're more physically guided with food. So it's like, how, like, and that's another thing you said to try and remove yourself from the podcast that just requalified yourself, was just like, look, there's nothing really to it. Like, I just kind of eat what I like, and there's actually nothing to it. It's, you know, and you were kind of almost saying it in a way that, like, I don't even know what everyone else is doing. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as in, and so yet again with the lunches, if a cheese toasty feels and tastes lovely for my belly today, like, why is that of interest to anyone?
Yeah,
It's just
so
like if
interesting,
an Aran
isn't it?
jumper feels nice on me today,
Doesn't mean
it's not a reflection on you.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing when we have a weight problem. You know, yet again, you eating chips or something could be, say, almost triggering, because it's, you know, if you're like, oh, am I allowed to eat them or not? But it's like, no, they just happen to feel nice in my belly today,
Right
and that's
now.
why I'm eating them.
until they don't, and then we stop.
Yeah.
Or, you know, to the point where I'm like, no, I'm nice and full now. That was lovely. And
Yeah.
there's still, you know, 10 chips left, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. See, that's another thing, isn't it? Like, you know, there's another kind of subconscious thing in people's brain about waste.
Yeah.
I think that's what gets me a little bit. Like, I probably wouldn't have, like what you just said there is really interesting, because I probably wouldn't have viewed it from that point of view. I would have always thought people think I'm wasting food, because I think that was kind of on a loop as well in people's homes. Like, you have to finish it because it's a waste of food.
I know, but we're screwed that way because it's not the 1950s.
Yeah.
So it's not as if our mom is boiling carrots and
Yeah.
spuds and beef. And so you've like 300-400 calorie meals in the day, and that's you, and a load of manual labour. We don't live in that anymore.
Yeah.
So like the whole finish your plate concept,
For the fuel factor. Or
just what we've had tonight. We've had like a whole, like, well, we haven't had a whole. We've both like kept it for lunch tomorrow as well. But like, we've had ramen, like Prosecco, whatever. It's kind of like, geez, that is not the calories they were consuming.
No.
You know, 30 years ago. So you can't have it both ways. Like, you
No.
can't be like, finish everything on your plate like the famine is coming, and be in the year 2022. You can't do both.
Yeah, but you see, it's a mentality that's projected on people that has existed from a time where that was the case.
Yeah,
To
100%.
the present time where we don't, if we took a step back, we don't live like that anymore. But it's still ingrained into people to the point where I almost feel like I'm letting people down sometimes if I take, like, you know, a quarter of a carton of soup and I'm like, didn't finish that, I'll just put that in the bin. Like, there's a little bit of guilt because I'm like, are they looking at me thinking I'm very wasteful? But sure, what's the alternative?
Well, I think the alternative is if you were to work it out another way, because like overeating is expensive, not just in the obvious ways.
Yeah,
But I
of course.
remember one of the things that really helped me in London when I was binge eating and stuff was kind of like, those other dietitians have to see the same amount of clients as me during the day, but they're not knackered doing it because they ate so much last night. Like, that's costly. Do you know what I mean? That's very costly to be tired because you ate loads of chocolates, or you're over caffeinated trying to go to sleep, or waking up with a food hangover. You are not saving money by making your pancreas or your heart or your stomach or your, you know, intestines work through this food that it absolutely did not ask for.
Yeah.
Like, you are absolutely not saving money by making that overwork.
Yeah, that's a good way of viewing it, actually. Yeah, I would never have thought of that.
Another thing you said on the voice note was that you were like, Aoife, like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, as in, as far as I remember it, you were grand, I was grand, we were all grand, and we were all generally the same weight, and it was all fine. And it was like, the first thing with that is that, like, I suppose, like, disordered eating and weight aren't always correlated. Like, it's in some of my most currently messed up clients wouldn't actually be the heaviest or the lightest. Do you know what I mean? Because yet again, it's
They're going through it. Like,
it's a mental thing, not a physical thing. And the other thing is that kind of like, you were kind of saying like, geez, we're just, you know, I was just a selfish teenager. I wouldn't have had any idea you were going through that. But it's kind of like ditto, because it's in like, that's horrific. You know, all the like skinny shaming and stuff. And I don't think I gave you an ounce of love and attention for any of that.
Come on.
And it's just kind of like, well, obviously we were all going through our own thing.
Yeah.
And
I think though, like, you know, there was an element of like, look, we were all putting up with something. Do you know? I don't think we ever spoke about, like, I wouldn't have had the confidence in my teen years to say, I don't like when people call me skinny, because, like, in my brain, people would have said, sure, what is wrong? Oh, God love you. Oh, God love you. Look at you there now with your skinny body, and you're giving out about people commenting on the fact that you are in fact so skinny. But like, in my brain, that was not a positive comment. So like, to me, it wouldn't have made sense to explain it to anyone else anyway, because you wouldn't have got any in my brain, you wouldn't have got any understanding, because people didn't understand my understanding of the word skinny.
It's really mental though. It is mental, because it's in, like, I genuinely think I was a bit ignorant until I worked with underweight clients. I definitely was, because as in it would make me angry if someone told someone obese to just eat less and exercise more. Yeah. But like, as in, it's quite normal then to say to someone underweight or slim to be like, why don't you just eat a sandwich or something? Yeah. And you're like, do you not see that, like, it's
more complex than that. Like, it's so complex. But like, you know, people would still say things like that. But it's so funny because, you know, we're supposed to take things like that as compliments. Whereas at the end of the day, I think, like, you don't want to gag people and say you can't make any comments about other people's bodies. But I just think people have to be a little bit more mindful of how powerful words are. Like, if people still say to me, oh, look at your waist, it's so slim, you know, I immediately take that as a negative. Yeah. Which is terrible, because it's definitely not intentioned to be a negative comment. Yeah. But in my, like, brain from, I suppose, years of being told I think scrawny is a very, like, you are not sufficiently human. You are just about hanging in there. Mm-hmm. So, like, to be told you're scrawny for, like, a number of years, I think that stuck. So then anything associated with that general term to me was negative. Yeah, I know. And still to this day, people will probably think, oh, I've just paid her a compliment. Whereas I'm like, I wish they had not said that. I wish they had just not made any comment at all. Yeah. It's so funny, isn't it? Because it's like, to somebody who is on a weight loss journey, possibly, if you said that to them, it might make their day. I don't know.
But yeah, your cool mirror. Your cool mirror.
The mirror came up earlier. We were talking about the mirror. Yeah. And like, the funny thing about the mirror, so just to explain something about said mirror. So I had a mirror that I purchased in Dunn's. I don't know if they're still there, but if they are, I would advise everybody to rush out and get them. I think it was like €15, full length mirror. Had this in all my various houses through my renting years. So anytime Aoife used to come to visit, Aoife always made a comment about my mirror, and you'd always say, like, God, this mirror is so slimming. And I used to think, like, nope, that's just a mirror. I don't know what you're talking about. That is the way I look. But oh my God, I had this mirror until I moved into this house. And I got a bit of a land, like, when I looked in another mirror, because I was thinking, who is that person? Number one, she's way shorter. She's wider. Like, but at the same time, I was like, thank God I had that mirror for so long, because it didn't actually matter a damn. I was going out feeling $1 million.
Well, like, we're both, like, you're 5'2" as well, aren't you?
I'd say if even, yeah.
Yeah. Or you're 5'1", maybe. I'm 5'3". But anyway, we're midgets. So, like, as in, of course, it's like a nice novelty. Yeah. To look taller. Yeah. And more slender or whatever in the mirror. Like, that is such a novelty. It
actually was the best thing ever. It doesn't rubbish everything we've just said, but like, it just goes to show it's all in your head. Like, it is absolutely 100% in your head. Because, like, the confidence you'd feel going out thinking, like, I'm tall, I look good in this outfit, it fits me well. The reality mightn't have been that. Doesn't really matter, because I went out happy as Larry. And like, you know, it's not as if I look in the mirror now and I'm bawling, crying or anything, because I kept that other mirror. It's in the attic. But no, like, it just goes to show, I suppose it taught me a lesson. Like, It is all in your head. If I went out looking the way I thought I looked in the mirror and I had that confidence that I looked that way, nobody else took any notice. Sure,
No.
like they saw what they saw, but I felt good, and that's all that matters.
I know.
Nobody's even thinking about you.
But it's kind of almost like stage hypnosis, you know, when a hypnotist will like hypnotize someone to be the hottest woman in the world or whatever, and they'll change their posture and they'll change their strut and all the rest of it. And I think like that's what kind of does make dieting like addictive, because the highs are highs, the lows are lows. And I remember one time I had to do a diet at work, which was very problematic. But, you know, I lost a load of water weight and all the rest of it. And I saw a number on the scales that I hadn't seen before. And I swear to God, like I was walking around London and going out and Clapham like I was the cat's pajamas. And I'm like I think about that sometimes, because I was like, if I could bottle that. And like what's weird is I think I am that weight, more or less.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, why can't I feel like
that?
You know what I mean?
Why did that qualify it as being like the best feeling, that you do have the confidence now to own it?
So it's always permission.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why everything's relative. It's like we'd all like say some of the clients that I work with, you know, or you know, any of us when we're struggling with weight, if you actually kind of saw your weight from the other side of like, you know, thank God I'm not a stone heavier or 2 stone heavier or whatever, you know, like as in basically just celebrate where we are right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like basically every aspect of how we look or our health could be worse.
Yeah.
And it's just so much more
because you totally have that thing. I think all women can relate to this, where you look back at photos of yourself and you know the feeling you had, that like, I definitely would have thought, oh, I could have looked better, I could have looked slimmer, I could have looked whatever. And you're like, sure, I was lovely.
Yeah, I know.
Wasn't I lovely back then? Sure,
I know.
I'm so young looking and I look great. And like, that's not being, you know, like vain or anything. That's just like...
Oh, everyone has that. Like,
yeah. Do you know, like you go out and you feel a certain way, and then you look back in years, when the years pass, and you're like, sure, what was I worrying about?
Yeah.
You know, like...
But this is the thing, and I think that's another thing we get wrong with dieting, because it's kind of like all the skills we use with motivating other people, like say like if you've got like a toddler learning to walk or whatever, you know, it's all encouragement, it's all positive encouragement, positive reinforcement. And I think we have to do that because it works. We like you can't mess around with bringing up kids, even if they're not your kids, just, you know,
yes, of course,
being around the next generation or whatever. You have to do what works to bring them further along, and that's what works. And then we do the polar opposite with ourselves, you know. In the kind of diet culture, there's a lot of like, I need to give out about my body. Like I remember I used to say to myself so often, like, Aoife, you need to call a spade a spade. Like, this is your weight, it's not right, you're a dietitian, think how much you ate yesterday. Just, you have to be realistic here. You have to call a spade a spade. Gosh. And it's like, there's nothing inspiring about that. No. Like, you're basically backing yourself into a corner.
God, if anyone said that to you, I'd punch them.
Thank you, Grainne.
I wouldn't punch you now, but like, do you know, like, why would you talk to yourself like that when you look at it that way? If anyone talked to you like that, you'd be so annoyed and so upset and so hurt that someone could say that to you, and then you can say that to yourself.
But it's just such a stupid way of looking at it, because like sometimes I think the word realistic is code for negative, because, you know, we can be like, you got to be realistic with yourself here.
Like you say, call a spade a spade.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, yet again, I don't think you do that with a kid. I don't think you'd be like, be realistic here, you got 5 out of 10 in that spelling test, be realistic, you're a 5 out of 10 kind of kid.
Well, no, absolutely not. No, like everyone has the potential, and that's what you're trying to tap into.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same with ourselves. You have to egg yourself on too.
Yeah, totally.
You know, otherwise, that negative chat to yourself is only going to end up in one thing, really. Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy then.
But the photo thing comes up so much with clients, because I think another thing for anyone who's ever been a higher weight will know, or I mean lower weight or whatever, we all have some photo where we felt fat on the night out. Yeah. And now looking back on it, you know, it happens quite often, people that they would now love to be that weight.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's how it goes. if you constantly step into photos feeling ungrateful for where you're at. For me, like, because I had to put messages very simply in my brain to retrain myself. I was like, I'm asking to get bigger. Do you know what I mean? By me not being grateful for this, you know, I'm kind of, if I don't own and work and celebrate where I am, for loads of reasons. Another reason is that if you don't own and work with what you've got, you're probably then in a headspace that's more suited to comfort eating and overeating and saying, well, I'm fat and gross anyway, so I might as well eat this.
Yes.
Whereas if you're celebrating yourself and you're like, amn't I lucky, I'm now at this weight, I can use this and own
even
this.
to remind yourself, there will be a photo you will look back on today. If you took a photo every day, guaranteed in 5 years' time, you'd be delighted to look the way you do today.
Yeah, and I think if you're very ballsy about it, I was like, you know what, if I do look bigger in these photos, they'll be so cool to look back on.
Yeah.
Do you know, like spin it in a way that's orientated towards your goal as well. That like it'll be nice to have some before photos. So I basically think that anything that is sticking your middle finger up to what fear wants you to do, because what fear wants you to do is wear a black muumuu and sit on your own on the couch and eat loads of stuff and feel gross and avoid social occasions, avoid photos.
God, that's so grim.
It's so grim.
It's so grim.
And it is like, that's why I kind of think like eating disorders are a bit crazy, because it is like a voice in your head kind of saying like, oh, you can't meet up with the girls now, they'll notice the weight gain, or do you know what I mean? And it's like, if you actually list what that voice wants you to do, it's grim.
Yeah.
You know, because I often ask clients like, you know, because, you know, they're like, basically it's like, my head isn't happy with what I ate yesterday. And it's like, well, what would your head be happy with? And be like, basically, if I ate vegetables, you know, because fruit is too much sugar, shouldn't be having that much fat. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you actually were to list the things that fear voice wants you to do, maybe not buy new clothes, not treat yourself, not be confident, not go for the things you want to go for. It's like, are you sure you want to listen to that voice? Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Are you, the life that voice is trying to get you to live, are you sure you want that?
When there's an alternative.
When there's an alternative. So that's why I'm kind of like, if we can do anything that's sticking up the middle finger to that fear voice, which I would say be smiling like a Cheshire cat in a photo, is a good step.
Yep.
And the other thing I think is when you gravitate towards, you know, someone nice looking in a photo, you know, it tends to be the smiley, fun, light people, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It's just somebody who's, positive looking, or, you know, like you can be a good looking person, but geez, whatever way you perceive a photo is very different, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you could have a good looking person in inverted commas scowling at a photo.
Yes.
It can take away all the goodness, but...
Or sometimes you know when someone feels ugly in a photo. You can tell it, like, do you know what I mean? But Grainne, you've been extremely helpful.
Oh God, I don't know about that, but the chat has been lovely.
Thank you, Grainne.
You're welcome.
And thank you everyone for listening, and see you on the next episode.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you enjoyed this episode and previous episodes and you'd like to know more about developing this great relationship with food and letting go of excess weight, I've 2 courses right now that are on offer. So you can get the Happy Hypno Weight course and the Love Food Program course for €150. And so that's over €100 off. So just go to happyweight.ie/special offer and go avail of this great deal now. Mwah.